shall we dive into our first segment of the month with a conglomeration of various news stories, including an update on the Goodwin Sands campaign, the news of a new culture minister, a junior minister in this case, and also some metal detecting illicitness. Oh, would you like to kick us off with that?
I will. Um, Actually, I'll start with the Goodwin Sands update because that's the quickest.
Okay.
As we're recording, in fact, almost exactly as we're recording, there are lawyers on their feet in a court in central London, not far away from where I'm sitting, who are deciding the judicial review of the Marine Management Organisation's decision to grant a licence for dredging the Goodwin Sands.
Right.
That is the culmination of a campaign that's been run by the Save Our Sands group in Deal in Kent. Our regular viewer might remember that we did an interview with Joe and Fiona who run it some time back now. It's now gone to court. They've crowdfunded the Richard Buxton QC and his chambers, who are one of the leading environmental practices dealing with these kind of issues, the legal side of these kind of issues. It's a very high profile case. It comes just days after the government announced that the Goodwin Sands was going to be part of one of the new marine conservation zones. And this is really the first test case of how much legal clout that designation actually has.
Yeah.
So it's all I can say at the moment. As I say, the case is ongoing. It's being heard as we're recording, and watch this space. We'll bring news as soon as we have it.
Okay. Well, and what I'll also do is, if I remember, I'll put a link below to that interview or some other pertinent links as well. So, but as I say, our loyal viewer will have been aware of this ongoing campaign. What's this about a new culture minister then? Should we be excited?
Probably not, because I mean, I don't. For people I know we have a viewer outside the UK as well, so it's
we've got two viewers now.
I think we've got at least two.
Oh wow,
but,
that's fantastic.
Okay, for the sake of argument, I'm saying we've got two. Because for people who don't follow UK politics, the British Prime Minister Theresa May, who is the person who appoints ministers in the government, resigned but didn't resign about 10 days ago, and said basically she's standing down at the end of this week, which means that any appointments that she makes are really only valid until the Conservative Party elect a new leader and therefore a new Prime Minister, which is going to happen by the middle of July.
Yes. Yeah.
So the chances of any new minister having any impact on the cultural landscape is really pretty minimal. There are, however, two interesting things about the appointments. The appointment that was made in a reshuffle on May the 23rd. The new culture minister is called Rebecca Powell. She's a Conservative MP of obviously the governing party.
Yep.
She's got quite an interesting background actually. She calls herself a Green Conservative, and she comes from a business background, but also from a farming background and from a journalistic background. So she's got quite a wide-ranging CV.
Which could, as you say, that all of this is tentative, depending on what her future is. But that could bode well in so much as lots of heritage landscape provisions are tied up with issues of the farming landscape as well. So if she knows a bit about that, then that can only be good, I guess.
Absolutely. I mean, heaven forbid the government actually appointing somebody with expertise and knowledge in a particular area that they're responsible for. My goodness.
They definitely didn't do that in Northern Ireland. But again, we shan't get into that.
No,
we
won't get into that.
I spent a couple of late nights this last week with my father-in-law, where we were just ranting about appointments. Right. Anyway, go on.
Anyway, whether she'll be given a chance to actually get her feet under the desk even and do anything, or whether so much British politics is in a holding pattern at the moment because of the issues of Brexit and so on. The other interesting thing about the reshuffle is that the former Heritage Minister, who Rebecca Powell's replaced, Michael Ellis, has gone to the Department for Transport, which means he's going to the department which is dealing with the Stonehenge Tunnel.
Ah, okay. And
So,
is this is there any sense of what his leaning on that issue would be? Does he have any vested interests or?
to be honest, I'm not sure at the moment. The the thing about the Department for Transport is that it's this is the department that is headed up by Chris Grayling, who
Oh, Mr. Omnishambles, yes.
yes,
Yes.
yes,
The person who got
the
his,
man who has redefined incompetence in government.
yes, who hired a ferry company that had no boats, infamously. Yes.
That's the most recent. That's
Yeah.
only the most recent.
Indeed,
Yeah,
yeah. But
yeah.
somehow he still has a job. It's amazing. But anyway, again, we won't get into
I mean,
that.
you know the reason he still has a job.
Sorry?
You know the reason he still has a job.
Well, because he clearly has something on the Prime Minister, doesn't he?
Well, yes, he ran her leadership campaign.
Right, yeah, yeah. Oh,
So
right, okay.
yeah,
Misplaced
I mean,
loyalty, yeah.
it was jobs to the boys.
But nonetheless, Rebecca
Allegedly.
Pow. Rebecca Pow. I like this surname. I like the idea of her going Pow for heritage. So here's hoping that she does a good job. It's
I mean, absolutely. We have to wish ministers well, and that yes, they well as the Hippocratic Oath, I think it is stands first, do no harm.
yeah, exactly. Never knowingly do harm as well. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Although that's Google, isn't it? That's Google. That's not. That's not
We won't. Yeah,
Hippocrates.
yes.
Yeah. We won't get into that.
No.
So, this
Other search engines are available.
exactly Yahoo. Oh, I remember Yahoo. Oh, yes. And then there was
DuckDuckGo
Jeeves,
as well,
wasn't
if
there?
they would be tracked.
Jeeves with the
Not
butler. Sorry, go on. There was what? Sorry.
DuckDuckGo if you don't want to have your data to be used to profile you.
Duck, duck, go. Interesting. Well, as in quack, quack.
Yes.
Oh, okay, that's cool.
Yeah.
I'll give that a go. Now, finally moving on to the I suppose the juicy part of this conglomeration of news stories. What's this about illicit activity and hoards of coins? Because there was a headline definitely came to my attention, being from the County Durham area.
Yeah.
Well, that is to say the news coming from the County Durham area, and that is the headline that coins from Viking hoard, which could change history, are recovered by Durham Police. And you've lumped this in with a story also coming out of Shropshire as well. What connects these two?
Right. What connects these two stories are the interesting time at which they cropped up, because we've just been having the consultation
Mm-hmm.
on potential changes to the terms of the Treasures Act,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
for example, whether the regulations, stipulations on reporting fines need to be tightened up.
Mm.
And coincidentally, I'm sure it's coincidental, we've got two high-profile stories about what is alleged to be illicit metal detecting,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
cropping up. One in Shropshire, which is a known hotspot for detecting. People might remember the stuff. The Welsh borders is a known hotspot for metal detecting,
Yep.
and people might remember the Staffordshire Hoard from the next county.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
As you say, one from County Durham, which actually also involves somebody who allegedly travelled from Lancashire.
Mm.
The seizures were in the northeast and in Lancashire.
So here again, with allegedly and all the other necessary caveats, is this potentially highlighting an issue whereby people find or rather recover material from one place and then attempt to report it in another place, or is this just someone who's travelled from Lancashire to do some digging in County Durham?
Well, obviously, I can't comment on the specific cases above what's actually been reported by the police. Obviously, there are ongoing investigations, there are ongoing legal processes, and we can't prejudge those.
No.
But what we can say is that there have been for a long time allegations that some unscrupulous metal detectorists effectively use the portable antiquities scheme to launder fines that have been gathered illicitly.
Mm.
So, for example, a metal detectorist might go onto land without permission,
Mm-hmm.
discover a hoard,
Mm-hmm.
lift the hoard,
Mm-hmm.
and then take the hoard to a fines liaison officer and declare it so they can be eligible for a reward, but they'll declare a legal fine spot.
Right. Right.
So effectively, they're laundering
Yeah.
illicitly acquired
Yeah.
artifacts.
And then, just to clarify, then this laundering process effectively makes those artifacts legitimate, and
Precisely.
then they can be sold through or people can benefit monetarily from these things in a legal way. Yeah. Yeah.
Precisely,
Okay.
precisely.
Right.
What's happened in both these cases is that material's been seized, which has effectively been illicitly recovered. Now, the really interesting one, I mean, obviously the County Durham case is currently the subject of an ongoing police investigation
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
called Operation Fantail. The case in Shropshire um, came to light when material was declared to the coroner as part of the treasure process,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and as in the coroner holds what's called a treasure inquest
Mm.
to decide on the fate of the material and the value. And what appears to have happened is that two metal detectorists, or two guys who claim to be metal detectorists, went onto that.
Claiming to be Charlie and Andrew.
They only gave their first names, and
Yeah.
they claimed to be Charlie and Andrew.
Mm-hmm.
They also gave a mobile phone number as a contact number, which turned out to be an unregistered number. It was a fake.
Right. Okay.
They metal detected on this farmer's land. They then claimed to have found material and gave him a share of the material, which he
Mm-hmm.
declared.
Mm-hmm.
But when it went to the Treasures Inquest and the British Museum did a report, these were Iron Age staters. The farmer who was handed over 19 coins. The British Museum did a report on them, and effectively, the hoard that they were claiming came from this one location actually was from at least one other location.
Mm-hmm.
There were there were coins from the area, which is fine, but there were also 4 coins from East Anglia.
Yeah.
And the analysis by the archaeologists advising the coroner
Mm-hmm.
On behalf of the Portable Antiquities Scheme suggested that they were very unlikely to have been found with the Bunic material from the Welsh borders. And it was highly likely they came from somewhere else and had just simply been handed to the landowner.
Yeah, and so this is essentially, statistically speaking, this material tends to come from, you can plot this stuff on a map, and you can
Precisely.
tell where certain types of coins are likely to have been dropped or have been in circulation in order to have
Absolutely.
been dropped. And yeah, okay, right. And
Yeah.
this is interesting, and I mean, I'll just go back to the County Durham story, because I'm particularly interested in the fact that it seems to fill in a bit of a blank in terms of a timeline. Characters such as Ceolwulf, and other kings connected to, for example, Alfred the Great, but also, I'm particularly interested in this little segment here. The coins point to an alliance between the two, Ceolwulf and Alfred, which the later sources from Alfred's court forgot to mention, while at the same time stressing Alfred's new alliance with his former enemy, the Viking leader Guthrum. That's again, it's possibly a niche thing, but for me that's really interesting, and it's a little microcosm of political intrigue that otherwise we wouldn't know about, and it was so nearly lost to illicit trade. Incidentally, I used to live on the street next to the street in York called Goodham Gate, which was Guthrum Gata,
Right.
King Guthrum's
Yes.
street, which terminates in, or begins, depending on which end you're at, on King's Square, which was the site of the old Viking long hall where the kings of York would sit.
Right.
So yeah, for me that's quite interesting, and it's really nice to see that it was recovered. But
being nerdy, the other thing that interested me about it was the final paragraph in the article about the Durham find, the Durham case, where it says that the police investigation is ongoing and a number of people have been arrested on suspicion of dealing in culturally tainted objects. Now, that's interesting legally because dealing in culturally tainted objects is quite a significant offence.
Yeah.
And it shows that the police and Historic England are wanting to up the ante, basically, with illegal metal detecting, in the hope that when people are convicted, that they'll face, and we don't know if charges are going to be brought in this case, obviously, but when people are convicted, if they are charged under that legislation, they'd be facing more significant penalties.
Yeah,
it's the same act that's used for people who are trafficking antiquities from the war zones in the Middle East, for instance.
Yeah, well, and this is part of a recent trend. I mean, we saw this a couple of months ago as well, where people are using this terminology a bit more effectively. Incidentally, yes. Just then, and I will keep this in the edit. Just there, when you said culturally tainted objects, the signal slowed you down quite dramatically. I almost want to sample that culturally tainted object. It could be my new text alert on my phone. But nonetheless, thank you for.
What I'll do, I was talking to somebody at the weekend about retro sound equipment. I live that kind of life, and I think what next time we record Watching Brief, I'll do it through a vocoder.
Okay. And, yeah, that could be good. Yeah.
Remember, these are the alien voices from the 1970s.
Yeah, you could ask me all sorts of weird questions. Yeah. What colour is your dog? This kind of thing. Anyway, moving on.